Welcome to All Docs on Deck, where we explore wellness, wealth, and womanhood through real conversations with women doctors across the diaspora. Another episode starts now.
We are back again with another amazing woman of color doctor in the room. And this one I love so much. From the first time I saw her, she just captivated me. And I just walked up to her and I'm like, who are you? Who are you? So now I get to tell you who she is, the one, the only Dr. Tonya Cunningham, also known as the Grief Doc. She is a grief counselor and ordained, let me back up, an anointed ordained
Yes, honey.
minister and transitional life coach. And she does something that's so unique. She merges clinical expertise with spiritual insight. And she
Mm.
specializes in grief recovery, emotional wellness, and that inner healing that we all need, along with deliverance. She's the founder of Let's Talk Healing Inc. and Dr. Tanya Enterprises LLC. Both of these entities provide coaching, counseling, and consulting in the areas of grief, mental health, and wellness, empowering people to confront their pain instead of hiding from it, to break strongholds and to heal holistically. My friend Dr. Tanya is a trendsetter. Look at those earrings. I mean, come on.
Right, that part. Yes.
She is a truth sayer with a message that is changing the way that we handle grief, literally. She's changing the way that we handle hurt and loss of any kind. Because most of the times when people think about grief immediately, they think about the loss of a person. But
Person,
as
right?
you're going to
Mhm.
hear, she helps people get through grief and loss of any kind. She has over
Mhm.
3 decades of experience in ministry,
Mm.
grief support, and the death care profession. She brings a
Mm.
lot of depth and compassion to every space that she serves. Dr. Tanya is the mother of her baby girl, Chelsea, who died after living 2 hours and 12 minutes. Her adopted son, DeAnthony, and the proud mom of her two fur baby, Westies, Mr. Cunningham and Bentley Sebastian. Are they getting along now?
They are much
They
better.
are. So, without further ado, I introduce you to somebody I love deeply, my friend,
Aw.
the Dr. Tonya Cunningham.
Ooh. Welcome, welcome, girlfriend.
Thank you both for allowing me into this, what I'm calling sacred space. I am so honored to
Mm.
be here with you all. Thank you so much.
We're going to go right in. The first question that we like to ask is, before you were Dr. Tonya, tell us a little bit about who you were.
It was around 2018 when I went to get my doctorate. So before that, actually, I was 5 years into my healing journey. And so when people look at me, I just turned 60. I don't look at you, right?
You down. You look great.
I turned 60 last November, and so I wasn't good at taking care of myself. So I was 5 years into my journey. I was processing through hurt and pain, and really didn't know who I was. And so that doctorate opportunity just kind of fell in my lap, and it just really helped me to
Mm.
continue to build myself during the healing journey after going through divorce.
You said you were 5 years into your healing journey. Can you
Yeah.
expand a little bit about that?
As she mentioned in my bio, I've been in the death care industry for 30 plus years, but I wasn't applying the information to me. I
Mm.
was teaching and helping everyone else because I've had many, many losses. It was a divorce that really opened my eyes to see that you're not dealing with your grief well. I had buried my baby, my mother, my father. My mentor was brutally murdered 3 days before my wedding, and he was
Oh my
also my
goodness.
wedding coordinator.
Oh my goodness.
So lots of death, lots of losses, but never really
Mm.
dealt with that. So it was 5 years into my healing process when I started that doctoral. And that's when I started learning how to develop coping skills and learn that it is okay to express my grief and okay to allow myself to feel sad because
Mm. Yeah.
culturally in the Black community, we have a tendency to present the strong Black woman.
Yep.
Right.
I
You
was
said
just in that space learning to really unlearn some of those beliefs that were not healthy for me.
that is so
Mhm.
deep. First, I want to just, acknowledge everything that you shared and thank you for having the courage to share it with us in this sacred space,
Yes.
as we say, and just having the courage to take that and have it become a testimony to even be able to talk to us today
I was
and
just,
to be able to
yes.
provide support. When we think about cultural practices, what cultural practices did you integrate into your healing process as you were
Re-
navigating all that grief? And
Redefining what strength is. Because we were
Ooh,
taught
oh, that's
that
so good.
Yeah, to be
Ah,
strong, that means the absence of expression of emotion,
yeah,
and that's not true.
yeah.
So being strong, I can't tell you the countless people that I work with. They sit across, from me on the couch, and I have a box
Mhm.
of Kleenex there, and they say, "I can't believe I'm gonna cry." I'm like, this is the space to do that. So we
Do it.
haven't
Yeah.
been taught to do that. So I'm helping
Mhm.
people redefine it. But I had to do that for myself. I said, you know what? And actually, Dr. K, a part of my story is that my healing journey began with me actually admitting myself into a mental health hospital. That's where the
Mhm.
journey began. Yeah. So unlearning those unhealthy coping skills,
Yeah.
and to realize that it's absolutely okay,
Yeah.
to redefine what strength looks like.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. Oh,
That
I
is
have
when you
so
said
many
redefining
questions. You go
strength.
ahead.
We
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed, we both said, "Ooh."
Oh, yeah, that
We
was
both
so powerful.
It's almost like I can see shifts when I think about the younger generation, like my daughters and the ones coming under, they're so different from our generation. It's like they're not trying
Yeah.
to prove as much and they're not trying to be as
Right.
strong. So I'm wondering like where that shift is coming from. Is it now
Mhm.
because we are talking a little more openly about mental health? Is it because we're now
Mhm.
saying, it's okay to not be okay? I don't know, but I love it. I do love it for them. And then I also think too, the ease of having community now, because as the
Mhm.
older I'm getting, I'm seeing that community is so important. It
Mhm.
helps us to not have to carry the burden by ourselves. We get to share
Yeah.
that with other people. And I really think the emergence of technology and look, I mean, look at us right now. We are
Mhm.
I'm in
Right.
South Carolina, Dr. Tonya, you're in Texas, Dr. K, you're in the
Virgin
Virgin
Islands. Yeah.
yeah, it's not like we could walk to each other's houses and have this space. But Dr. Tanya, what are some of your thoughts about that? Like, and do you feel like there is a little bit of a shift with that redefining of strength? Have you seen that with even women our age or younger generations?
Mhm.
Yes, I have, and definitely more so. I've seen it in the younger generation, but I've noticed because what I did, y'all, I healed openly, publicly.
Mm.
And
Ooh.
I've learned that has impacted many, many women, especially our
Yeah.
age. And so we have middle-aged women and older now being free to do that because in our culture,
Mhm.
what we have taught is that strength is often praised, but not always processed. So we don't
Right.
process our pain. And so, and I've noticed also that the change in the culture, it came around the pandemic because the pandemic really
Mhm.
brought such great
Yeah.
awareness. It was,
Yes.
I explained the pandemic as Charles Dickens, the book we had to read, A Tale of Two Cities, and the entrance of the novel says
Mhm.
it was the best and the worst of times.
Right.
And that's
Right.
how
Mm,
I described the pandemic because it was the
Mhm.
best and the worst. And many
Yes.
people will ask, well, how can you say, with all of the millions of people who died, how it was the best of time? Because it brought awareness
Yes.
to
Yeah.
grief, depression, mental health,
Yes.
all of that. And so people are learning that it is okay because now we say it publicly. It is okay to not be okay.
That is a pivotal moment. That's so true when I think
mhm.
about, and this is where history has such an impact on just
Yes.
culture and
Yes.
communication, right? Because I didn't really think about that, but I have seen so many shifts from the pandemic, and you're absolutely right. That's one of them.
It's all
I got so many questions, y'all, and I might go off script just a little bit because this is like, oh
Let's
my
go.
goodness. So the two
Yeah.
questions I have is how did
Mhm.
you redefine strength for yourself? And then the second, because I think there are going to be a lot of people who are looking at this that may be in that place where they're contemplating, do I need to get help? Do I need to seek psychiatric services? But there might be stigma or shame or other girlfriend doctors who may just be taking on the world and just feel like they have to put on this face
Yes.
and this mask. And really what they need to do is prioritize themselves so they can take care of themselves. And so my twofold, how did
Yeah.
you redefine strength for yourself? And then what was that middle space that led you to realize I need help here?
I redefine strength for me as really freedom and a
Mm.
freedom I've never experienced before. One of the things I hear a lot from people say, you look so free. I'm like, really? Because now it's a lifestyle to where I'm just living.
Yes.
But that strength came with me understanding the importance of slowing down, The practical
Mhm.
things that we've heard before,
For
but really
yes.
didn't implement that. And
Yes.
understanding really me, learning about me. As women, we have a tendency to care and give to others, but rarely do we know ourselves. When I
Right.
was going through that divorce, I really didn't realize that I didn't know who I was until I went,
Mhm.
through that tragic space there. And
Yeah.
so my encouragement for women is to really do what you need to do to take care of yourselves. Your journey may not look like mine. Mine started again as it relates to being in a hospital, but yours doesn't have to get to that point. And because
Mhm.
because I wasn't listening, I was attempting to be the strong Black woman. And then crisis happened. And that's what caused me to realize, okay, you need help.
Mhm. Yes.
When you get to that rock bottom space and said, because all the things I've tried were not
Yes.
helpful. Let me uh, try a new approach and be open to new.
I love
Mhm.
that. And I'm gonna add
Mhm.
one more, Dr. I know you see, Dr. Shalana shared you as my girlfriend now. So
No,
this is your
'cause I
fault
got
for
some questions
opening this
after
pen.
you.
I know. Okay. I have one more. Just one more. Then I'm
Yes.
gonna turn it back over to you. So tell me about that middle space, right? So recognizing that you needed help. What did you have to say to yourself to get to that point? Like from where life was good and then there's a
Mhm.
crisis. Like what happened in that middle space? Because I think there's so many people that might be in that contemplative space and just
Yeah.
have understanding that process. What did you have to say to yourself? What did you have to do? Who did you have to reach out to?
I had to say to myself that I'm glad you said that because that's what I had to say to myself that it's okay for you to get help. And I had to remove the shame and the
Mm,
Mm,
stigma
mhm.
uh, because I was like, okay, I'm already at the bottom. Let me just go here. And having a social work
Mhm.
background, I knew what to do. I said, but let me
Yes,
actively do it.
yes.
So really, it was changing the mindset. If we want to see a change in our lives, it starts with the mindset change. And so that's what I
Mhm.
had in that moment because really, now talking about it, the pain was speaking so loudly that I
Yes.
needed a change. And so for
Mhm.
me, that's what it was. And it was the best
Mm.
thing that I ever did in my life. After that, I took
Mm.
FMLA, never
Yes.
took FMLA, never
Yeah.
use the short-term benefits that I've been paying for
Right.
years. It was
Right.
amazing. It was amazing.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, Dr.
Mm.
Shalana, I
yeah.
turn it over to you now. I know I had my chance.
Look, Dr. Tonya, I hope you had your Wheaties this morning because we when
I'm
you were
ready.
talking and you said that some of the things that you had tried before they weren't helping and you had to like learn about who you were, it just made me think as a woman, especially as a brilliant gifted woman, there's so many iterations of ourselves and like we're evolving, and I've had that happen personally too where my self-help tools that I've used that worked before in previous seasons for different versions of me for different experiences, I'm doing them and I'm like, this ain't helping,
That's
you
right.
know? And at some point, it's like, okay, I need to stop and create some new things. But that takes time. It takes
Yes.
time to have that awareness because the first
Yes.
Mhm.
step is
Yes.
awareness. And then even reaching out for help to see what else is available. Do you have any advice for any women who may be listening that are like, I do, like I journal, I'm meditating,
Mhm.
I'm praying, I'm going for the
Mhm.
walk, I'm taking the shower, but it just doesn't seem to be helping. What would you say to a person who says that?
Mhm.
Mhm. I would definitely encourage them to really take a look at their lives and see that they are exhausted. The majority of women that I work with, especially in the Black community, again, I say you're tired, you're
Mhm.
exhausted. And so for me, that was the thing. You're right. I did the journaling, I did the praying, but I learned as we did together in our course with Dr. G about rest. But
Yes.
but my therapist even took it further in that he said, "You didn't get to this place. I got to the place of compassion fatigue."
Mm.
Because I'd done it for so many years. He said, your divorce didn't do this. You've been going and going and
Mm.
going for years,
Yeah.
working in around death all the time. I was a mortician starting out. I worked in hospice. He said, you preach and all of that you do, it causes you to virtue leads
Desensitized.
you.
Mhm.
Yes, and desensitized to that.
Mhm.
And so you have to rest. So I discovered I wasn't resting. So it sounds
Mhm.
simple, but it's powerful. and profound. So, and when I share that with other women, a lot of us don't know what that is. Like, how do I rest? What do I do
Right.
in that space? So
Because it's
that's
not
what it
Yes.
sleep.
was for me.
It's not sleep.
It's not sleep,
It is
right?
not sleep. No, it's not sleep.
Yeah, that's so profound because it's something as that sounds as basic as resting, but if that's the foundation. So if
Yes.
you
Mhm.
don't have that, all those other tools and techniques,
Yes.
it's not
Right.
not going to be. And I mean, if it's a little bit helpful, but it's not going to penetrate because you need to have that
No.
Yes.
rest.
Yes.
And can I add one more thing too? Is
Yes.
setting boundaries.
Yes.
I wasn't a good boundary setter. And so through my therapy, I learned again that was a trauma response. I was people pleasing, wanting to make everybody happy. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I started saying no, talking about freedom, that was the first time I ever
Mm.
told my oldest sister no. And boy, she's like, what's
What?
wrong with you? I said, no, I'm just setting
Like,
boundaries
how
with
dare
that.
you?
Exactly. That was, but now many of you both of you have probably heard this cliche that says that you have to teach people how to treat you.
Yes.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's what I
Yes.
did. So I went through the process, then I
Yes.
started teaching people how to treat me through setting
Yes.
boundaries. And now it's a wonderful life. It's a wonderful life.
I love it. Oh my god. There were so many gems. So like one, I was thinking about well, I love the freedom, right? Because with girlfriendism is love and liberation. And so much
Mhm.
of that living that freedom life is being able to say yes to yourself. And sometimes saying yes to
Yes.
yourself means no to someone else or to an opportunity, right? Or something that
Mm-hmm.
presents itself as an opportunity, but in that moment is not aligned with what you need and what you desire in your life at that point. And then when we were thinking about talking about the sleep and the rest, I was also thinking that, yeah, sleep is what our body needs, but rest is what our heart and our soul needs for that to be
Yes.
So
replenished.
good.
Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking about, when I first started hearing about grief, I thought of just losing somebody. The first person
Sure.
that I lost that was close to me was my cousin. I don't know. Did y'all have Hurricane Hugo? Any effects of Hurricane Hugo
Hmm.
back?
Yeah.
Okay, y'all
Mhm.
did. So I was
Wow,
in the
y'all
sixth
did.
grade.
Oh my God.
Y'all
Yeah.
had
Oh, wow. Virgin Islands has never been the same ever since. That was like the major one that really let us to prepare for all of the ones after. So cool.
Wow.
Really? I did not realize that. I live in Charleston now, but I wasn't in Charleston, but I was still in South Carolina inland, and we still got a lot
Mm.
of flooding. Well, I was in the sixth grade when that happened. And one of my favorite cousins, we had a lot of rain and stuff, and they didn't show up to church the next Sunday. And they were like, oh, they're always at church. And unfortunately, one of the bridges that they were trying to drive on had collapsed. And so that car
Oh
ended up
my
going over and they
goodness.
passed away. So that was my first experience with loss. And as a little girl, I dreamed about her for years, not every night,
Hmm.
but over time.
Yeah.
And so that was my first experience with like loss and grief, losing a
Mm.
person. But as I got
Yeah.
older and started working in the mental health space, I realized that, so this funny feeling I feel now that me and this one friend, like we used to be close, and then we're not. I'm not really sure.
Hmm.
That weird
Yes.
feeling. And sometimes I feel like I want to reach out to her. And then sometimes I'm mad. I didn't realize that that was considered grief. I didn't realize
Grief.
it was
Yeah.
considered
Yes.
grief.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
can we talk a little bit about grief? It
Yeah.
covers everything. It's not just the loss of people. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I love talking about that subject, and I love bringing insight to people because some people will say, "Oh, I don't need you. I'm not grieving." I'm like, every human being, we grieve. We really do.
Absolutely.
And if you look back over your life, we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of losses. But again, we haven't been taught that grief is about loss, not about death only. So, yes, you
Mhm.
can lose anything. But one of the things
Yes.
that Queen Elizabeth stated, she said, grief is the price that we pay for love.
Love.
So,
Yes.
especially, yeah. So, if you love and you lose, the automatic human response is to grieve
Mm.
because
Yes.
grief
Yes.
is an internal, emotional, and hormonal. When we talk about hormonal response, the moment you hear about the loss of whatever it is that you lost, again, your body is flooded with the stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, and you're in grief, and you can look just like this.
Mm.
Most people
Wow.
think grief is an outward expression.
Right.
That's mourning. That's mourning. They're not the same, although we use them interchangeably. Grief happens on the
Mm,
inside, mourning happens on the
Mm.
outside of us.
Outside.
So when we're talking, crying, screaming, journaling, exercising, whatever it is that we're doing, that's mourning.
Yes.
And it's also,
Mm.
it means how we cope.
Yeah.
So the question I want your audience to ask, is how am I coping with this loss? And if you have difficulty in answering that, then I encourage to ask someone close to you to ask them, how I think I'm dealing with the loss of my job since my health changed. How do you think? And oftentimes the people will say you're not coping well.
Right.
Yes.
I love that
You gotta be
concept
ready
of
for that
asking
answer.
someone on the outside. Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yes, you wanna do that, and so many people again, I've been working in the industry for 30 years, but culturally, we were taught that grief is only associated with death, so I
Right.
listen to this because of my culture, I spiritualize all of my death losses. Mother, father, baby, all of that, and the divorce is the one that opened my eyes, that
Mm.
almost took me out of here mentally because I didn't understand that that was a great loss as well.
That
Said a
was a
lot
lot.
there. The
Right.
mourning is the external and the grief is the
Yeah.
internal.
And I think what will hit home for so many people is the fact that we expect and we know that we must all pass away, right? From the
Mhm.
physical. And to that point, from the cultural lens, you know,
Yes.
so and so is in the spiritual realm. So and so is, is a guiding ancestor, right? We have that as
Mhm.
part of as a resilience factor, I think, culturally. But then when we think
Mhm.
about someone who has just chosen not to be in relationship with us or chosen not to love us back, that is such a
Mhm.
different level, like a different weight and something so
Yes.
difficult to process because they're in the physical.
That's called ambiguous grief. So when you're in the grief
Mhm.
process, you must understand also that there are different types of grief, and that
Mhm.
will impact your experience of grief. Because my 98-year-old grandmother versus your cousins who died the way that they did, how you grieving more in those two groups of people is going to be totally different
Mhm.
because you had trauma and grief. Not all
Mhm.
grief is traumatic.
Right.
Right.
So recognizing the types of grief. So you said like you're grieving someone who is alive. That's
Mhm.
ambiguous grief. And that can be more difficult than if someone died because they
Right.
are still alive.
And
Hey
I think
sis, have you been looking for an opportunity to just get away, to just be? Join me this fall in Panama City, Panama. Contact me at unstuck@drsherlondaatkins.com.
It's layered. My
yes.
prayer is that anybody who's listening, if you feel like you're struggling with grief, definitely get help. We have an expert right here. And I've heard you
Mhm.
talk in other spaces about the different types of grief. There's what is it, disenfranchised? It was a disenfranchised?
Disenfranchised. Yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm.
disenfranchised grief. That's the type that's not socially accepted. The story I always give with that is the deacon, true story. When I worked in the funeral home, it was a deacon who died in bed with his mistress. And I always
Mhm.
ask the question, does the mistress have the right to grieve? Now, the good
Wow.
old saints will say, no, she doesn't. But she
Right.
does because
She
there was
does.
a relationship.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
disenfranchised because she has the right to grieve, but she can't publicly come to the funeral.
Right.
Not safely.
Right.
Not safely.
Wow.
Not
Right.
safely.
Yes, you better stay home.
Stay home. But yeah, I have a lot of middle-aged people who are grieving their youth. Their
Mm.
younger years, their health is not
Yes.
not what it was. I
Yes.
have people who are retiring and they're in grief and like, what is going on? I said, you
Yes.
you transitioned from what was familiar to unfamiliar, and
Yes.
that's grief.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I could identify with that because I experienced that last year when I completely shifted my business. I was like, okay, I want to shift from a brick and mortar to wellness, but there was like this feeling, and I'm like, what is this?
That's
And
right.
I realized, like, oh my gosh, I have to grieve the version of myself that got me
Hmm.
here. Like, I'm
That's right.
moving. And so it took me a moment to like process that, but to get physically feel it in my body, like, okay,
Yes.
I'm mentally, I understand this shift, but internally, what is this thing that's coming up?
Hmm.
Hmm. Yeah.
Grief is a whole body experience.
It
Yeah.
is. And in those transition periods, I was thinking as you were talking about people who are grieving a younger version of themselves, because I run into a lot of women who kind of have the woulda, shoulda, coulda. I wish I had, if I had have started school back, I've been thinking about maybe going
Yeah.
back to school, maybe getting my
Yes.
doctor. I've been thinking about that for like 10 years and I wish I had have done it. I don't necessarily put that in the category of grieving, but usually say, well, what are the barriers? Try to figure out like what's keeping you so stuck. But what
Yeah.
advice would you give to a woman who's contemplating, I want to go back to school? I don't know. How do you help them get
Mhm.
unstuck with
Yeah,
that?
Yes.
I love that. From the unstuck strategist. So
Yes.
the advice you gave was definitely spot on, and it really is grief too because they're grieving what could have been.
Right.
You have to grieve the
Mhm,
idea of what could have been. So
Mhm.
acknowledging it, and then they
mhm,
have to grieve and mourn that as well. And now look at where they are now. And
Mhm.
what is it that you can do now? Okay, do you still want to go to school? Okay, what are you going to go to school for? What's the
Right.
purpose of going to school? Are you going to
Yes.
school because of performance, or is it something that you really want to do? Because we don't want to
Yes.
respond as a trauma response.
Right.
Is this something you want to do? Then do it. I've had many people in grief uh, when their children went off to college and they're empty nesting, and they're like, "I always wanted to go to school." I said, "Okay, now go back. Now's the time to
Right.
do it. Now's the time to write the book."
Yes.
So I encourage people to really look within to assess to see what the root cause of you wanting to do that. And if it's
Yes.
from a healthy point, then go do it. Go do it.
Yes.
oh, do it. Yes, but just
Go
That
make
do
sure
is
it's
it.
not a
so
trauma
true.
response.
Right.
Make sure it's not a trauma response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Assess,
Yes.
assess the motivation.
Yeah. We,
And so, if I can, I would love to talk about something that you shared in your intake because we asked
mhm.
everyone this question. And so, I want to read it back and kind of get your thoughts.
Yes. Okay.
So, we asked, what perspective do you bring as an Afro diasporic woman doctor that is often unheard? And you shared that I bring an awareness of how race, gender, culture, social history, and faith impact the grief experience, and also
Mhm.
addressing the strong Black woman burden. Can you
Mhm.
expand on that a little more for us?
Yes, there are many grief educators out here,
Mhm,
as with any other profession. And I look at it, so what is it that I do differently? Is
Mm,
that incorporating all of that, the
yes.
culture, the gender, the faith. But I would have to say, because of just my own personal life of being raised in the church, my dad was a deacon. Uh, but it wasn't until I went through that divorce to realize that I really didn't have the relationship with God that I thought I had. Going through the grief
Mhm.
process really helped me to integrate faith
Yeah.
into that space, and know that faith and feelings are important. It's not one
Mhm.
over the other. And
Mhm.
being able to address those cultural disparities that caused me to think that I had to be strong and it looked like not expressing my emotions.
Right.
So for the first time, and this was, I was older when I started going through this healing process, about 40, 48, something like that. So really just challenging the culture and challenging the beliefs that I have been taught and just integrating what I really learned in my own personal journey and just started teaching it to other people. And I was
Mhm.
only able to do that because I was being freed through the process and didn't
Yes.
realize it. That was a challenge. I didn't because I'd
Mm.
never experienced freedom before. Never,
Wow.
never.
Wow.
Yeah.
That, ooh, I'm letting that sink in.
I know. I'm thinking. So when you say you never experienced freedom before, like true freedom, how would you describe that? Even like physically, what did that feel like
Mhm.
physically for you in your body?
It felt like shackles fell off.
Mm.
Yeah, literally. And I can remember where I was. It was my first huge, to me at that time, speaking engagement. I was in Galveston and I was speaking to a room of people, corporate setting, about 1,000 people in the room. And it was that trip that I was checking in the hotel. I said, I feel free. So, oh my gosh, what happened here? I feel free. I checked in my room, and I love being by the water, even though I can't swim. But water just helps me be calm,
Yes.
gives me peace. And I walked on that beach, and I said, "Oh my God, I am completely free," and I didn't even realize that. I had no reference for that. So, freedom for me is
Yes.
freedom in speech, being
Yes.
able to voice,
Yes.
freedom in movement.
Movement.
What I'm wearing is freedom. You know, I never
Yes.
would have worn these prior to going through the healing. I never would have worn these big glasses, none of that,
Yeah.
because I learned who I was,
Mhm.
and knowing my identity helped me to
Yes.
be free and know that that was what my strength was all along.
You know,
Yeah,
this is why I love movement and I love fashion. Okay.
yeah,
Y'all know this.
yeah,
You know, because that was one of the first things I was like, give me the earrings. It reminds me of the masqueraders that we have, you know, and it's so funny because they actually represent freedom and liberation and resilience. And so even just seeing you, even in the way you just showed up before I even got to before we had this conversation,
yeah,
everything that you're talking about already showed up in your presence and how you embody that, right? And that is the power of healing, of the healing
yes,
process too, because when we're
yes,
holding in that grief, then it does feel more constrictive. When we release that, then that creates space for us to
yeah,
actually receive and to be able to experience that freedom. So that's beautiful. Yeah. Thank you
yeah.
so much for sharing that.
You made reference to how you were brought up. So you were a church girl. Your dad was a deacon, so you were in church a lot. How much do you feel that community has played in your healing journey, who you are today, and not even just in church, but how you grew up? Tell us a little bit about how you grew up. What were Sundays like? You know, what were holidays and birthdays? What was that like for you?
Sundays, if you saw the old classic movie Soul Food,
Yes.
Hmm.
that's where everybody came over to Big Mama's house.
Big Mama's
That's
house. Yep.
what, and yeah, and I actually lived in my childhood home. My parents left it to me when they passed. And so this was the house every Sunday. My mother would cook for everybody on the street, anybody who wanted it. So community was so important. We would come together, sit together, laugh together. I think that is so important. But here's the thing that I noticed we would do or not do. We would not grieve together because we were not taught to express it. We would not grieve together. We would go into separate rooms because we wanted to have that appearance of being strong.
Right.
And so, but everything as it relates to communal was very, very important. And especially when it comes to grief, we're not meant to go through that process alone.
Alone.
Your support system is vital when you're going through the grief process.
That was so heartwarming because I could visualize that when you said everybody
Mhm.
come over to Big Mama's house, and I
Yeah.
think about as a little girl, I felt safe. I just felt safe in
Yeah.
Hmm.
that. Now, when I think back to growing up, I think to some of that stuff, going out to pick your switch and then getting beat or getting
That was
yelled at and
traumatic.
some of this. Like,
Right. Oh my
know
goodness.
how healthy some of that was, but
Right.
in looking at that, I also pulled from the parts that were ingrained because, like you said, we
Yeah.
were meant to be together in community,
That's
and
right.
I'm grateful for that now. And community, as we get older, community shifts because some of those, the
Mhm.
older people, they move on. Sometimes we
Mhm.
move geographically, and so then we are left with the task of creating our own communities and building our own communities,
Mhm.
and preferably we do that with wisdom. And then we
Yeah.
continue to have those safe spaces. I'm glad you shared that because that's been one of the themes that we've heard is that community
Yes,
is part of
absolutely.
the whole wellness and healing
Yes.
Yes.
journey.
Good.
Can I add one thing to that? Most people probably have heard this cliche that says it takes a village to raise a child,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and I used to connect that with the grief process. I said when you're in grief, it really takes a village.
Yes.
But as I continued on the journey, I changed it to a tribe. So
Mhm.
tribe is more
I love that.
communal, and I said it
Yeah.
takes
I love
find your tribe. And then as a process through, because some people deal with trauma, sometimes it takes a trauma team to
yes.
surround you when you're in grief because everybody can't handle it because they don't know
Right.
what to do.
To
They
Yep.
feel
do. Yes.
uncomfortable. They try to
Yes.
fix you thinking something is wrong. And
Yes.
so it just takes special people a lot of times, depending upon what you're going through, to help you
Mhm.
heal in a community, in a community.
Oh,
That
I
could be a
love
whole
that.
another episode
I know.
of
That's
this.
what I'm thinking too. Oh my God. That and the
Yeah.
cultural pieces, right? Are the things that we were conditioned to think or believe, or the things that we say. For us, it was who don't hear will feel, or it's the look. And
Mhm.
then having conversations like this, though, we have the opportunity to dismantle what's no longer working or to just rewrite that
Mhm.
narrative and see what is healthy and well. But we also say in Gophernism, We are tribe. Our girlfriend is in
Yep.
tribe. So I love that. We're all
Tribe.
about the healing and the love too.
You see all that like alignment from the
Yes,
movement, like freedom, the liberation, the
all
dancing,
of
the
it.
tribe, all of it.
Yes.
Oh, Dr. Tanya, this has been amazing. Like we could keep you for like 10 hours and keep talking. Of course, we're not gonna do that because we will be
Facts.
resting, and we talked about rest is important. So grateful and so appreciative of your time because I so respect the work that you
Mm-hmm.
do. And you are a beautiful example of what taking care of yourself first looks like. And so
Mhm.
just thank you for being here. And to our audience, I know y'all want to talk to her.
Absolutely.
Please tell people where to find you, how to find you, what type of work you could do with them if you have any upcoming events.
You can find me on social media on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. It's Dr. Tonya Cunningham. And if you're on Facebook in particular, that's where my biggest audience is. And I do a lot of lives and I give a lot of content because a lot of people will say, well, I can't afford to go to therapy. My expression is you can't afford not to go. We
Not
have to
to.
figure out
Right.
what we can cut to invest in yourself. But I offer a
Mhm.
lot of content. You can definitely go to my website. It's drtonyacunningham.com. And it's a 15-minute session to where I can connect with you and just see what you need and get you to the place that you need to be. You don't necessarily have to work with me, but we want every one of us to be in a space of freedom and healing. And then I am co-hosting an event on the 25th. And guess what? This is the first time I'm going to announce it because I'm getting ready to go live after I finish with you guys. We have a virtual option. It's called the Faith and Feelings Live, and it's catered to the Black community and the church in particular. It's not
Ooh.
faith over feelings, it's faith and feelings. So I'll
Yeah.
be posting that. You can go on my Facebook page and see the link because we're going to talk about spiritual bypassing and how we need to stop that and allow ourselves to feel so we can heal. Hilton, he's one of my co-laborers in that. He teaches that many people in the body of Christ, we are spiritually obese, but we are psychologically malnourished.
Ooh.
I know. Isn't that amazing? So we're going to deal with
Lord
that.
have
And then
mercy.
Danielle
Yes.
is going to talk about the body.
Mm.
So that's April the 25th. You can definitely watch it
Yes.
virtual and you can register for that. And I'll pop it
Ooh.
on my Facebook page shortly.
Ooh.
Ooh,
That one just made me want to just do a dance in my seat. I was like, woo. Yes.
so y'all see she's doing all kind of amazing things, and the best part about it is you're doing it from your heart. All of
Yes.
what you do, you can tell that it comes from the heart. Any last words, Dr. K?
Ooh, thank you so much for your vulnerability, for your courage, having the courage to heal, having the courage to take the time to put yourself first to get the help so that you could process and take this testimony and help others with it. I know all of the viewers probably taking notes, they are going to have so many gems because all of us are going to experience grief in some form or fashion. And so this applies to all of us, right? It doesn't discriminate. So thank you so much for doing this courageous work and for showing up fully and amazingly beautiful, darling.
Yes.
Ah, thank you for accepting the call. And we just appreciate you. And we just cannot wait to see you again, girlfriend. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of the viewers and have a blessed and beautiful evening. Good night,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye.
So great.
Dr. Samachi Kachikwu, Dr. K, Dr. Soma.
Be honest,
Yes.
and that's what we're doing today.
Yes.
I learned about boundaries like last year.
Yes. Yes.
It's not, boundaries are not in my reality. Proverbs in my language that if you keep something to yourself, it's gonna eat you up. If you have a child that has a challenge, like they'll tell you to like literally go to the village square and yell it out. If you have a child